tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to commence the fundamentals program from the place where we stopped a few months ago. If I recap what we have done so far, from the very beginning, we discussed about the paramattas in detail and what are the ontological list. What is the ontological list of the Theravada tradition? Then we moved on to discuss the Rūpas, the matter. So far we have done a considerable portion of this chapter. We have defined the Rūpa Kalapas, how Rūpas are found in one unit in a Kalapa. And then we also extensively discussed about the Kamaja Rūpas, and now we are in the section of Chittaja Rūpas. And in the very last lecture, before I took a break, I discussed about the Vachi Viññati, the verbal intimation that facilitates speech. Today I'm going to, because I couldn't finish it completely, and I'm going to talk about do the lecture and completely talk about this matter in a holistic way. So we hopefully we'll be able to finish it by this end of this lecture. So Vachi Viññati is the verbal intimation. So far we have already discussed about another reality, Rūpa, which is called Viññati. That is the bodily intimation which facilitates physical activities according to the mind. So when we are deliberately acting on our intentions, upon our intentions, our body tend to work according to the will of our mind. And this combination or coordination is done by a material quality called Kaya Viññati. The same thing, a similar thing happens when we are speaking. We tend to speak words as we intend. So otherwise there will be huge problems in our communication. So in order to regulate the speech or otherwise modify the speech according to the intention of the speaker, there is a material quality which affects the nature of the sound. So with this verbal intimation, we are capable of speaking out our intention, our desires, what we have in our mind, we are capable to express it. So according to Theravada teachings, this speech is fully dictated by the mind, entirely dictated by the mind. It doesn't mean that it is a soul or a self, consciousness is a soul, but it has overall control over the nature of the speech. So otherwise we will be speaking something else than we think to speak. So then it would have raised to a huge chaos, because we will be uttering something else while we are intending to speak something else. So this chaos is prevented according to Theravada teachings by the influence of the Vachi Viññati. So if I go directly to the handout 2.143, I have distributed a new handout yesterday. Vachi Viññati is the modification caused by mind in Chittaja Rūpas to make the sound while speaking to be in accordance with the intention of the mind. So when we are speaking, now we are speaking out. This is the person, he is speaking words, sound, and this sound has to be in accordance with the person's mind. He has the intention to speak I go, so the sound also should be I go. So this interrelation should be there. So the mind is an immaterial thing. When mind arises, some Rūpas arise which are called Chittaja Rūpas, but out of them sound is another Chittaja Rūpa which arises in the body, inside the body. So this sound is modified according to the mind. So this modification, some sort of a influence of the mind upon the sound. And this is called Vachi Vinyatti. Actually, the modification is done on the 4 great elements. Or you can say it is modifying the sound. Both is possible. So in some books it says it modifies the 4 great elements. Some says it modifies directly the sound. So we'll talk about these 2 differences as well. When we are thinking to speak, what happens is, if this is our body and the vocal area, air comes from our lungs and we speak out. So this air strikes on various parts of the vocal area. At the same time, tongue and teeth also strikes against each other, body parts. Throat also vibrates. So this kind of physical contact is there. So what the Vinyatti does is, now these physical contacts are deliberate bodily movements. And we intentionally articulate a sound according to our desire. So when we want to say we go, we round our lips and send some air out and we say we go. So according to the letter we want to utter, we have to use our vocal area accordingly. Otherwise we will be articulating a different sound. So all these are physical movements. So these physical movements, according to the tradition, should be modified by Kaya Vinyatti. Kaya Vinyatti is responsible for dictating upon the physical activity. So since the movement of tongue, the vibration of the throat, all are physical activities, and they should also be according to the intention of the mind, facilitating the intended speech. So because the person wants to speak out I go, but at the same time, in order to say that, he has to purposefully, deliberately use his vocal areas. So it's a physical movement is there based on the intention based on what he wants to speak. So based on this intention, the Kaya Vinyatti makes the bodily movements. And then what happens? During this time, with the air, we get, either we create here or it comes from the lungs. It is not it can be both based on the information found in the literature. So some Chittaja Rūpas, Chittaja Kalapas arise during this process. Chittaja Kalapas, I may draw it in yellow color. These Chittaja Kalapas strike against the Rūpa that is already existing on the body. So these are the Rūpas existing on the body. These are the Kalapas. So there is a strike in between these two. They are striking against each other. So one book says they don't exactly strike, but they are arising close together. Anyway, whether they strike or not, there is a certain kind of a contact which causes the sound. There is a certain kind of a connection which causes the arising of sound. Then what happens? This striking is modified by Kaya Vinyatti. Then, based on this striking, new Rūpas arise. I shall draw it in blue color. New Rūpas arise together with the sound S. Together with the sound. This Kalapa contains sound. And then what happens is, Vachi Vinyatti, which arises within this Kalapa, modifies this sound. It modifies the sound. The Kaya Vinyatti, which was drawn in green color, Kaya Vinyatti, modifies how the striking happens. Then the sound arises. Vachi Vinyatti does. Vachi Vinyatti, what it does is, it modifies the regulates the sound, the nature of the sound. So the person's intention, so here we can find the person's mind has a intention to speak. I go. So then his intention modifies the striking with the help of kaya viññati, and then the mind modifies the rūpa sound which arises due to this striking. And ironically, this is mentioned to be chittaja rūpas. These both are chittaja rūpas, because kaya viññati facility also arises in chittaja rūpas, vaci viññati also arises in chittaja rūpas. This is the very basic explanation of viññati. So kaya viññati facilitates the physical movement, the physical striking, while vaci viññati modifies the sound which arises due to this striking. Right? So this is the main explanation. So where does it strike? It strikes on the upadinaka rūpas, the already existing rūpas. These rūpas could be all 4 types of rūpas in the body. 4 types of rūpas. That is to say, kammaja, chittaja, utuja, and aharaja. A striking can happen on all of them. Mainly it should be utuja rūpas, it seems, because that is what is abandoned in our body. That is what is abandoned in our body. Some would say that it is kammaja rūpas, but it is very unlikely, like such a striking happening in the vocal area would only strike the kammaja rūpas without striking the other rūpas. The word used in the commentaries is upadinaka gattana. So upadinaka, the term upadinaka normally refers to kammaja rūpas, but within the literature there are instances where it can be referred to any rūpa existing in the body, and also to any nama that is found in arising in a living being. So the word upadinaka has a broader meaning in this context. Then the striking, the chittaja kalapas are striking. At the same time, certain utuja kalapas also may strike here. So certain utuja kalapas may also strike and produce utuja sounds as well. Utuja sounds as well. So this is the basic, very gist of the lecture that we are going to discuss today. The remaining other parts are something related to this in order to elaborate this concept very broadly. But this is the main idea of the explanation. So I'll repeat what I have said. The chittaja rūpas arising in the body while we are speaking strikes against the body already in the rūpa, already existing rūpas of the body. And this striking is modified according to the intention of the speaker by kaya viññati, since it is a physical touch, physical contact, physical movement. Due to this contact, there arises chittaja rūpas with sound, and this sound is modified directly by vaci viññati. So this could have, now this striking would have produced some rūpas, the sounds which would have been according to the intention of the speaker. I'll talk about this at the later part of the lecture. But somehow this sound is modified by the vaci viññati directly. Vaci viññati directly. So we speak out words as we intend. At the same time, now there can be some touches of contacts of utuja rūpas with the body as well, because the air that is flowing, and also especially when the tongue is striking against the other parts of the body or the vocal areas of the body, of the mouth, surely there is utuja contact. It's obvious. So therefore it's a mixture of contacts that are happening. Chittaja to upadinaka, utuja to upadinaka is happening. So the sound arises. So there has to be some utuja sounds while we are speaking. At the same time, there has to be chittaja sounds, and those sounds are fully dictated by the chitta with the help of vaci viññati. When a person speaks, air comes up through the windpipe, trachea, strikes at vocal cords and various places in the mouth, and as a result the sound arises. Patavi dhatu of these kalapas strikes against hardness in 4 types of krupa kalapas in the throat and mouth. Striking can happen with Patavi, Tejo and Vayu, but the what is mostly abandoned or the actually responsible to the striking is mostly Patavi. That's why the commentators have said it as Patavi. The manner they strike is determined by the Kaya Viññati found in Chittaja Kalapas of the air which comes up through the trachea, the windpipe. Meantime, parts of the mouth such as tongue and lips also need to be moved in order to produce sound. Such movements are physical movements. These movements happen due to Chittaja Vayu Dhatu arising in those body parts, and those movements are regulated by Kaya Viññati. So it is already obvious, and we have studied about this. Therefore, it should be noted that striking of air on relevant areas of the throat and mouth and moving body parts such as tongue and lips are regulated by Kaya Viññati. So these strikings has to be done by Kaya Viññati. As we already know, Kaya Viññati behaves according to the intention of the mind. Therefore, air and relevant body parts strike in a way that would produce a sound according to the intention of the speaker. So this striking facilitates the arising of sound according to the intention of the speaker. When they strike thus, Utuja Kalapas with sound arises. At the same time, some Chittaja Kalapas with sound also arise, of which sound is modified according to the intentions of the speaker. So the Chittaja sound is modified. Utuja sound is not modified in this regard, but there is a certain modification because that sound arose due to a striking that has been modified by Kaya Viññati. So there is a secondary modification as well in Utuja Kalapas as well. But actual direct modification of sound happens in the Chittaja Kalapas according to the Theravada. This modification in mind-born material clusters with sound is called Vachi Viññati. So this is the basic explanation about verbal intimation. The above explanation needs to be examined thoroughly in terms of Abhidhamma. So then, I'll read out because I have explained all these. Firstly, we should understand the type of rupas found in air that comes up via a windpipe and strike at relevant parts of the vocal area. So when the wind comes up, so we have to find out, we have to first need to know what type of rupas are there. There are Utuja rupas, Chittaja rupas, and also there can be Kammaja rupas in a certain context. It is obvious that this body of air contains Rūpa Kalapas made of Utu. We have discussed this in detail when we talked about the Anapana as well. Those Utuja Kalapas go out of the mouth when we speak. At the same time, it is also possible to assume that this body of air contains Chittaja Kalapas as the air body goes up according to the intention of the consciousness. So it goes according to the intention of the consciousness because we regulate this air. Therefore, it's very logical to assume that Chittaja Rupas are also found in it. If we are to consider the air which goes up through the windpipe as Uddhangama Vayu, Uddhangama Vayu is something mentioned in commentaries, out of the 6 types of Vayus which goes up, especially through the windpipe. While we breathing, that is Asasa Passasa Vayu. So if we say the wind goes up, is Uddhangama Vayu. Normally, we can consider it Uddhangama Vayu. I will not doesn't guarantee it as whether it would be defined differently in the literature, but to my understanding, this can be easily called Uddhangama Vayu. According to Visuddhi Magga, it contains all 4 types of Kalapas. So Uddhangama Vayu contains all 4 types of Kalapas. So the air that comes up, when it goes out of the mouth, it has to be Utuja only. But while it is inside the body, it can be all 4 types of Kalapas. Secondly, the striking must be considered. Now the striking, which I have also discussed. Now this is the air coming up. Then what type of a striking is happening? Secondly, the striking must be considered. Between what type of Kalapas does the aforementioned striking take place? In terms of realities, it is Patavi Dhatu that strikes. Patavi strikes. And as mentioned above, those Patavi elements are found in all 4 types of Kalapas. Not only in the air that comes up, but also the body parts such as throat, tongue and lips are constituted with 4 types of Kalapas. So this all contains 4 types of Kalapas. These are based on the explanations found in Paramattha Deepani. I have given the references at the end. Then not only in the air that comes up, but also the body parts such as throat, tongue and lips are constituted with 4 types of Kalapas. Part of teeth which can be seen are only constituted with Utuja Kalapas as well. So with the outside of a teeth only has Uttuja Kalapas. Therefore, the striking that produces sound is something that happens between all 4 types of Kalapas. So, it's a Kalapa, 4 types of Kalapas striking against 4 types of Kalapas if we thoroughly analyze this. But mainly it's Chittaja and Uttuja that has been discussed in the literature. In the commentaries, only Chittaja has been discussed. But when we thoroughly examine, we find 4 types of Kalapas striking against 4 types of Kalapas. Therefore, the striking that produces sound is something that happens between all 4 types of Kalapas. Manner of these strikes is determined by Kaya Viññati. So, sound is produced according to the intention of the mind. So, this striking manner of striking is determined by the Kaya Viññati. So, we know in a body of Kalapas that contains all 4 types of Rupas, when the Kaya Viññati modifies Chittaja Rupas, it also causes the other Kalapas to behave accordingly. That's why when the mind modifies our movements, the Kaya Viññati, when we intend to move forward, it's not only the Chittaja body is moving, the entire body is moving. Like when a stick is flowing in a current of water, whatever it is on the rod, on the stick, would also move with the current. So when the main body is moving, the entire parts connected to it would also move. In the same way, when the Chittaja body is moving, the remaining Kalapas that are connected to it would also start moving. So when this is a 4 types of Kalapas striking against 4 types of Kalapas, and this striking is modified by Viññati, which is arising in Chittaja Kalapas of these bodies. Then, based on when the Chittaja Kalapas are modified, entire Kalapa, body of Kalapas that are striking are also modified. The tongue, the throat, and also the air, wind that comes up. Then, while speaking, organs are moved according to the Kaya Viññati. Then the manner in which Chittaja Kalapas strikes against the hardness of 4 types of Rupa Kalapas is also shaped by Kaya Viññati. So, according to Kaya Viññati, we move the body parts such as tongue and lips and also the throat. Then jaws and so forth. Then the striking is also modified because how the striking happens, regulating the striking, the manner it is striking. We can say it's dictated by the consciousness. It's fully determined by the consciousness. Determined means regulated by the consciousness. Then what the Vaci Viññati does it shapes the nature of the sound to be according to the intention of the speaker. It is like an imprint of the mind in the sound we utter as words. So the striking happens based on Kaya Viññati. When sound arises, that sound is modified by Vaci Viññati. As Lady Sayadaw suggests, Vaci Viññati is not found in sounds. Sounds made while laughing, crying, shouting, and making various noises that are not words. While we cry, laugh, we do utter sounds that are Chittaja sounds, but they do not contain Vaci Viññati. There is no such specific modification. But this can be further analyzed. Now think about the animals. They do communicate and they do have a language. So it seems like when they are speaking certain words, that seems to be cries for us, that has no meaning, but for them it seems they have a specific meaning. Maybe what Sayadaw was telling, when crying, the sound, the things happen out of our control. When we are laughing, most of the time, if a loud laugh comes up, it's something out of our control. So since the things are out of the control, maybe because of that, Viññati, he has considered Viññati is missing in those sounds, right? And it makes a lot of sense, but you can still go into it, deep into it, and scrutinize this idea. Then the commentarial explanation of Viññati. So what I have explained is based on Paramattha Deepaning. Now the commentarial explanation is a little bit different from what we have discussed so far. According to this commentary of Dhammasangani, now so I'll first explain it, then we'll go into the handout. According to the commentary, what happens is, in the striking, I'll use a different color. Chittaja Rupas arise, striking against the body parts, which are the Upadinaka Rupas. It can be Kammaja or any other Rupa, because there are evidences to show that striking happens with some other, all 4 types of Rupas. So when this striking happens, this striking is the way, the manner the striking happens is modified by Vachi Viññati. That's the point here. According to Paramatta Dipani, a striking happens with Chittaja and the Upadinaka. There are some other Rupas also happening. We don't need to focus on them. We'll think about the actual production of the sound. This is the gist, the most important point about the 2 ideas. So this striking is modified by Kaya Viññati. According to the commentaries, this striking, with this striking, the sound arises, when the Patavi strikes, sound arises within that same kalapa, and the striking and the arising of sound happens simultaneously. That's the point here. The striking is modified by Vachi Viññati, and that sound, we all know that the striking would cause a sound. According to this commentarial explanation, the moment the striking happens, that's the moment the sound arises, and that is within the same kalapa. It's not a new kalapa that is arising, because the commentators say this striking is modified. It's affecting the 4 great elements of the kalapas which strike. So due to this striking, the kalapa arise striking against another kalapa. At the same time, sound is arising within that kalapa based on the striking. So it's something happens simultaneously. If a sound is happening in another kalapa, what happens? Since the Vachi Viññati is modified in the striking, if sound happens in another kalapa, that sound will not have a Viññati, because Viññati is the modification of the striking here, Vachi Viññati. But in this case, what Lady Sayadaw is suggesting, he clearly mentions, now this is the sound, Vachi Viññati. What Lady Sayadaw is suggesting is, the striking happens with Kaya Viññati, and then due to a striking, another kalapa arises together with the sound, and this sound is modified by Vachi Viññati. Modified by Vachi Viññati. So this is the 2 differences between the commentarial explanation and Paramatta Dipani. Commentary, COMPRD, Paramatta Dipani. This is Dhammasangani commentary. So we can see the differences. I'll repeat again. According to Dhammasangani commentary and its literature and its sub-commentators, Chittaja Kalapa strike against the parts of the body. Together with this striking, the striking is modified by Vachi Viññati, which is found in those kalapas. And when they arise striking against the body parts, the kalapas arising, striking against the body parts, which is happening simultaneously, sound arises within the kalapa. Sound arises within the kalapa. So what the Vachi Viññati does is, it modifies the striking which produces a certain specific sound based according to the intention of the speaker. But according to Paramatta Dipani, striking is physical. It's a physical movement, it's a physical action. It's not verbal. It's true that you need physicality in order to utter speech, articulate speech. But still, the striking itself is a pure physical activity. And physical activities are regulated by Kaya Viññati. So the striking is regulated by Kaya Viññati. As a result, the sound arises. Now there's another problem that I shall discuss later. Why? Now this sound is Chittaja. The question that comes is, if it is Chittaja, does it need the support of a striking? So does it need the support of a striking? Because can't it just happen because of the mind? That doesn't happen so. So according to this explanation, the consciousness produces sound, and that sound alone, consciousness produces chittaja kalapas, and the consciousness is unable to produce a sound, but it needs the contact, the physical contact. Contact must be there. Physical contact must be there. So here the chittaja kalapas are arising owing to the sound. Chitta is producing this, but owing to this sound, owing to this striking. Owing to this striking, chittaja kalapa is produced by mind. It's a directly production of the mind, but chitta cannot produce the intended sound unless there is a striking. So it's very obvious that striking has to be there, because when we lose or when we lack certain vocal parts, we cannot articulate certain sounds. For example, if we are missing teeth, we will not be able to properly utter a dental sound. If our tongue is not moving, we will not be able to utter, only we will be able to utter some labial sounds. Only that would be, or guttural sounds, few sounds, but not the palatal, lingual or dental sounds, because the tongue is a must for these three types of sounds. So striking has to be there. Now, according to this, striking and the sound happens together, and those kalapas which strike are produced by the consciousness, and the striking is modified by vachi vinyati, and therefore the sound happens according to the person's intention. But according to this, striking happens with kalapas, and these striking kalapas are also chittaja rupas, but the striking is regulated by kaya vinyati. As a result, when the sound arises, sound is produced by chitta. When sound is produced by the chitta, the intention to speak, with the help of the striking, that sound is directly regulated or modified by vachi vinyati. So these are the two contrasting opinions within the literature. I shall read the handout. According to the commentary of Dhammasangani, vachi vinyati is the modification of the patavi dhatu of the chittaja kalapas that strikes against the hardness in four types of material clusters. The manner of striking is modified by vachi vinyati so that the sound arises fitting the intention of the speaker. The manner of striking is modified by vachi vinyati. Sound arises due to the strike of chittaja patavi dhatu with the hardness in other kalapas. As Anutika suggests, that sound arises in the same kalapas that strike. Following is how it has been explained in the commentary on Dhammasangani. So this is the explanation. I didn't give the Pali translation. The gist is, I have already given what I have just said. Sound and vachi vinyati are found in the same kalapa. Saha saddha pana eka vinyati atti idang vachi kamma dwarang. There is an intimation together with sound, and that is called the door of verbal actions, vachi dwara. Moreover, that is the same kalapa that strikes against the hardness of the relevant body parts of the vocal area. Sangattanākārena pavattānaṁ bhūtānaṁ saddassa nissaya bhavato. So nissaya bhava means they are happening in the same kalapa. That's how we have to get the meaning. Some Mahatheras have said the commentarial explanation shows that the vinyati and sound are in two different kalapas, but I personally feel that the word nissaya bhavato refers that the striking kalapas and the sound are in the same, because it says the mahabhutas that are striking are the nissaya for the sound. So it seems, I think that would be a better explanation to say the sound is arising within the kalapas which are striking. Because it's also mentioned sahasaddhapana eka vinyati atti. Vinyati is together with the sound, is very clearly mentioned. So sangattanākārena pavattānaṁ bhūtānaṁ saddassa nissaya bhavato sangattanena saheva saddha upajjati. So these bhutas are nissaya for the sound, so they arise together with the sound, together with the striking they arise. Saheva upajjati. There are two definitions for vinyati. I think we have discussed about this regarding kaya vinyati as well. This modification of the chittaja rupas facilitate others to guess the intention of the speaker, hence called verbal intimation. So this thing it helps someone else to understands the viññati helps to guess the intention of the speaker, hence called verbal intimation. Because the way when we utter words properly, so the manner with the help of the words that have been uttered, we are able to understand the person's intentions. Because we know that the words that are uttered are the intention of the speaker. So we are responsible for the words that we use. That's a very obvious thing, and we all know that. And we, from our childhood, we are taught you have to be careful about what you speak, because your speech indicates what you think. Your actions indicates what you think. So as a person, human being, we are mainly our mind. The most important portion of ourselves is mind, though there is no self, conventionally speaking. So the mind is expressed to the outer world based on our physical and verbal activities mainly. Sometimes our expressions make arise, like for example, if we get really angry, even we don't make a movement, we can easily see the changes of our body. When we get sleepy, our sleepiness would obviously manifest to others. Sometimes when we are in a very sad mood, it can be seen, it can be understood by others. So it's not only the verbal and physical activities that manifest our mind. There are other ways that it could be manifest. It get manifest, but mainly speaking and activities, physical activities, are a best mode of conveying our intentions to others. Even we intend or not, that's how it is represented. That it gets represented through verbal and physical activities. So when I'm speaking, I'm responsible for what I'm speaking. So when you are very good in language, we don't normally think much. We just keep on speaking because of our habitual practice, because of our practice. But each and every word, each and every sound we utter, we are responsible for that. We speak out having thought. Sometimes we may miss, there can be slip of tongue and certain miscommunication could happen. So that is because of we are unable to be fully mindful or to be aware of what we are speaking all the time. So for example, I wanted to say I went home, but I would say I went to the office mistakenly. But that word was uttered intentionally. Though the person didn't have intention of lying, so that's a different case. Every verbal speech is said intentionally according to this. So so based on the speech, we guess the person's intention. So vaci viññati regulates the speech, so it's a help for us to understand the other person's intentions. Wise ones can understand the existence of vaci viññati by listening to spoken words. Based on it, the term vaci viññati is also defined as the matter that can be known by wise by listening the words uttered. So vaci viññati itself, now vaci viññati facilitates the others to understand the intentions of the speaker. At the same time, the existence of vaci viññati can be known through the words uttered, because we know that there is a relationship between the word and the consciousness, and this relationship was made by the vaci viññati, a certain modification happening in the sound, and that is the vaci viññati. Even though wise can know the intention of the speaker by listening the words uttered, it should be strictly noted that vaci viññati is never an object of sota viññāna. Vaci viññati cannot be known through sota viññāna. Sota viññāna can only know sounds. Mano vaci viññati can only be known through mind. It means it can never be known with the sotadvarika viti. One first listens to the sounds uttered as words with sota viññāna. Then based on his previous experience, he guesses the intention of the speaker. In that process, first manodvarika vitis cognize the vaci viññati. Then based on that, subsequent mind or processes guess the intention, the mind of the speaker with the uttered words. Then we understand what is he intending to, what did he intend to speak out, right? The following chart of mind processes would give a clear picture on the mechanism of knowing others' intentions by listening to words. So as I've distributed the handout, and I also mentioned in the Kaya Viññati lesson, you should be able to understand. First, a mind-o process goes, listen to the words. Then, the Sota Dwarika, ear-do process happens, listening to the sound. Then a mind-o process cognizes the Viññati. Will not be able to know it as Viññati, but that's what is known, then afterwards, Katana Chitta, we understand the intention of the speaker. So sometimes the same thing, same word, we may say go, or as shouting go away. So in both the occasions, we will be able to guess the person whether he said it with a pleasant mind or an angry mind. So Vinyati facilitates this. Vinyati is also helpful to this. It's not only Vinyati, there are many other things that are necessary in order to guess the speaker's mind. I will not go into that detail because that would take us away from the Theravada doctrine and to go into other aspects of psychology and philosophy. Right. Vinyati is a mere modification occurring in Chittarupas due to mentalities with the urge to speak out words. Therefore, it is not a concretely produced matter, hence Anippanna Rūpa and Anippanna Rūpa, hence an Anippanna Rūpa. However, the Chittarupas of which the modification is are concretely produced matter. So, this Vinyati, whatever you find out, the 4 great elements of these Kalapas are Chitta born, concretely produced by mind, but not the Vinyati. Vinyati is just a slight modification happening in. Further, Vachi Vinyati is not a Paramatta Dhamma, no Apanyati. It is a modification occurring in a material ultimate reality. It's happening in the ultimate reality. Is a modification happening on the 4 great elements. Right? The tradition has explained the mechanism of speaking as follows. Right, I have already explained that. We'll just go through again. When a person has a desire to speak, first he should move his organs related to uttering sounds. All these movements are physical acts and their mechanism has already been explained under the Kaya Vinyati. At the time, another type of Chitta Rupas with abandoned Vayu arises, striking against the 4 types of Rupa Kalapas found in mouth and around the vocal cords. So all the 4 types of Kalapas, I have given the footnote explanations why, from where I took it. In these Chitta Rupas, Patavi is modified by Kaya Vinyati to strike against the Patavi in 4 types of Rupa Kalapas in mouth and around the vocal cords. Due to this strike, 2 types of Rupa Kalapas arise with sound. Utuja Kalapas with sound and Chittaja Kalapas with sound. Because the Lady Sayadaw suggests there has to be Utuja striking. So Utuja sound has to arise according to that. Chittaja sound also arises. Among them, the Chittaja Kalapas with sound are produced by the Manodvara Vajana Chitta and Javana Chittas in number of Vitis. They are modified in a way that sound occurs fitting to the intention of the speaker. So this sound is modified directly by the consciousness. That modification is called Vinyati, Vachi Vinyati. The remaining sounds are Utuja Rupas, which are born merely due to the strike of Chittaja Rupas, due to the strike of Chittaja Rupas against the hardness or any other Rupas against the hardness, right? Because of Chittaja Kalapa striking also, it is possible that we may get a sound, Utuja sound. It's possible, right? Against the hardness of the 4 types of Rupa Kalapas found in mouth and around the vocal cords. Utuja striking or Chittaja Utuja striking or Chittaja striking on other Rupas also can produce Utuja Kalapas. At the same time, Chittaja Kalapas are produced. Now we have an analysis. I am going to talk about 3 main points about this analysis. I will just read out and explain them briefly. Can Chittaja Kalapas with sound arise without the aforesaid striking? Because Chittaja Rupas are produced by consciousness. If the sound is a Chitta-born matter, can't it arise without the striking? Because what is the relevance of striking in this regard? Yes, it's obvious. It cannot, right? If so, it should be possible for a speaker to utter words without body parts such as teeth, tongue and so forth. Therefore, even though the sound we speak is Chittaja, it needs relevant striking. So this is a very important point. Now, Chitta produces Chitta-born matter, but only for the sound-born, Chitta-born sound, the Kalapas that are together with sound, we need a striking. For other, now, it doesn't seem very accurate. It doesn't seem, because when Chitta is arising, it brings forth Rupas like a mushroom that comes from the ground, earth. It always carries a piece of portion of soil on it when it comes out. So like that's the example given in the commentaries. Then if Chitta could do that, why can't it just produce a sound like it produces some other mind-born matter? So only for the sound, chitta born sound, the sound produced by consciousness, there has to be a relevant striking. So this seems little bit strange, right? But obviously, whether the sound is produced by chitta or not, it's obvious that the striking has to happen. So I'm doing an objective analysis here from like scrutinizing the idea. Then what happens? Is consciousness a must for producing the sounds of living beings? Then the next question that comes is, if so, if the striking can produce, if striking is must, is it necessary that the consciousness has to arise, or consciousness has to regulate the sound as the Vachi Vinyati does? It's another question. But the reason is, it is obvious that sounds arise due to the striking of inanimate objects in the environment. So we see things strike against each other, sound is produced. Moreover, striking of relevant vocal parts is also necessary to produce speech sounds. It's also, we know, in order to utter our speech, we have to strike our vocal areas against each other. Inanimate objects also produce sign, animate objects also produce sign. If so, is consciousness a fundamental requirement for the production of speech? Because if speech could be produced without the consciousness, is it necessary for the consciousness to produce this sound? Is it a sound mind-born matter? Sounds produced by striking of inanimate objects are mere sound that has no specific meaning. Then another one can bring an argument. The sound in the inanimate object doesn't have a specific meaning. Then another question can be asked, is it not that the speech of humans is meaningful only because of the conventions laid by humans related to their languages? It seems yes, right? Because what we are speaking, the words we speak, has a meaning because we have laid down certain conventions. So those words have a meaning. So it seems like, it seems like that argument can be confronted, or seems like the meaningful argument can be confronted or can be challenged by this idea, because the sound of inanimate things doesn't have a meaning, but the speech of humans has a meaning. But this meaning of speech is only because we have given a conventional, set up a conventional agreement between humans that this sounds refers to these meanings, right? So if we are able to create a new language by certain sounds, we'll still have even inanimate objects striking against each other can produce a meaningful sound, because the meaning happens in our mind in the end. Moreover, then, yes, it is not that, is it not that only humans but robots too can produce sounds which we can understand? That's also true, because if you train AI, and because we can see it in phones, iPads, they do speak, and we can understand what they are speaking, right? We can understand. So they have meaningful words. Those words have a meaning, and we can have a discussion with an AI and with a robot. So though they have been programmed, but still the sounds can be produced by these machines. Though robots and AI can produce speech, in living beings, speech is produced, in accordance with the idea of the being who articulated it. It means living beings speak with the help of consciousness. Though the AI robots can speak like humans, and the striking of inanimate objects can produce sound, but something which is unique to the living being, that is how the Theravadians could argue on this. The unique thing for living beings is that sound, when we speak, is produced by consciousness. So it doesn't mean that sound that we speak also needs the striking of relevant body parts, vocal part, doesn't mean that sound is 100% equal or similar, or the same process has to be followed like inanimate objects make sound. Like a robot makes a sound, It's a different process going on. But here we have a different process. So for example, in order to fly, we have to go against the gravity. So some birds go against with a different process. The plane goes against the gravity with a different way. The rocket goes in a different process. So whatever whatever the means doesn't matter. If you are able to go against the gravity, you'll be able to fly. In the same way, it doesn't mean that robots can produce sound without a consciousness. It doesn't mean that living being speech doesn't require consciousness. And also we cannot objectively argue that it requires the consciousness, but that's how it is being felt. Because we speak what we think. We first think and then we speak. So there is a huge correlationship with the consciousness and the sound. So though the argument seems good that if sound can be produced without consciousness, is it necessary that the argument is the sound a chitta born matter? Can't it be just a sound that is coming up due to the striking? So is it like we don't need to talk about the chitta born matter, just the striking happens and then the sound comes out? So is it so that's the main idea of this argument. But Theravadians would say no, it is purely produced by consciousness, but the striking is relevant, striking is necessary, but the sound is produced by consciousness and it is been regulated by the vignattis. So it seems like this seems to be a certain law of nature that is unique to living beings. That's also possible. Sometimes the birds go against the gravity in their own. But if you are able to follow it, because it's a material thing, so if you are able to do it properly, we'll always be able to fly if we have the relevant structure of the body. But that doesn't mean that every flying has to be followed like a bird does. Right? So the basic requirement is if you go against the gravity, you'll be able to fly. In the same way, the sound requires the striking of certain body parts, but the speech of the living beings is directly, the consciousness also gets involved in this process. Then another point deserving analysis is the requirement of vachi viññatti to produce sound. Not produce sound means modify the sound. That's what I mean, modify the sound. According to the Paramata Dipani, it is the kaya viññatti that modifies the way of striking that produces sound. So according to Paramata, we think about the Paramata Dipani analysis. Now the kaya viññatti is causing the striking, and based on the nature of striking, the sound arises. According to this view. Right? So if so, sound can be produced directly by this striking according to the intention of the speaker, as kaya viññatti behaves according to the mind. So for example, if we want to make a certain sound with our hand, we just change the way of striking. So we can have different sounds by the way of changing the way of striking. So if kaya viññatti is modifying the striking, and we do it intentionally, if I want to utter G and C, so what I do is, I just use my body parts in a way that would produce G. It's not that the sound is directly produced by consciousness. What I'm doing is I'm modifying the way of striking. So when the way of striking is modified, automatically as two things strike, the sound, when sound arises due to the striking of two things, when it is thus struck, the sound would automatically arise. So there is no necessary, it seems there is no necessary for chitta to directly produce the sound. What chitta is doing, the modifying, the striking, so the sound could happen. So that is also a very possible argument here. Because kaya viññatti behaves accordingly. So then sound is produced based on our intention, because the consciousness modifies the striking. So if consciousness modifies the striking, then the relevant sound could occur. In simple, there is no requirement of vachi viññatti. It seems, according to this, human beings must be capable in producing meaningful speech without vachi viññatti. That's just a very strong argument one can bring. In such situation, what the mind has done is, it has dictated the manner of striking only. So the mind is dictating the manner of striking, and with the striking, automatically the sound would arise. The consciousness has no direct modification, or has not directly modified the sound. Vachi viññatti that arise in chitta kalapas that are with sound directly modifies the sound in according to the intention of the consciousness. According to Theravada, when this sound is arising, vachi viññatti modifies this sound. Therefore, while bodily movements involved in speech are regulated by viññatti, Kaya Viññatti. Vachi Viññatti, on the other hand, directly modify the nature of the sound. So, according to Theravada, what it does is, now sound arises and sound is produced by the consciousness with the help of the striking. So, there's another thing. Now, it seems like in order for the sound to produce by consciousness, the striking has to happen. The striking has to happen. Then, this is being directly modified by the consciousness with the help of Vachi Viññatti. So it seems it also should be a unique phenomena for living beings, that striking could have produced sound, but it does produce sound. Uttija sounds will be produced for sure, but some Chittaja Kalapas are produced directly by the consciousness, and they contain sound with the help of the striking, and that sound is directly modified by the consciousness through Vachi Viññatti, rather than just the mere modification of the way of striking. Yes, these are the analysis. This is a very interesting topic, Vachi Viññatti. So I hope I could able to do it, cover the entire thing within one lecture. So Vachi Viññatti is something that is required to express our ideas, and the sounds we utter, articulate, are directly modified by this Rūpa found in Chittaja Kalapas. So, and it's very useful for us to express our idea and also to understand the other one's intentions. Right. So this also shows that it's the consciousness alone cannot produce. Consciousness just cannot produce sound as a self. There is a mechanism going on, and this also elaborates on the phenomenon of non-selfness, that there is a mechanism going on. The outcomes are based on the causes, and this opens up the doctrine of non-selfness. So I conclude the lecture, giving opportunity for the Q&A session.
Venerable Tantin, we are very happy that you are back. And my first question is, actually I was wondering how to frame the question, because it's the way you explain. I would say it like this. Now, if we have a musical instrument which is outside, the instrument itself is not capable of producing sound. If it is a set of drums, or even a violin, or even any other instrument, human being has to play that. Unless, of course, it is managed by AI or machine or something like that, that's a different story. But here I am talking about a usual physical instrument played by a human being to produce sound. Then it is the human mind which decides how to play. Of course, there is some understanding how the instrument works with that person, and he has been trained to do that. And he knows by moving his hands or fingers or whatever, he will be able to produce some sound. But when the sound is produced, it is an external object. He is not capable of modifying that, but it's only by moving his fingers in a certain manner, or by moving his hands and limbs in a certain manner, he will be able to produce the required rhythm and the required music or that sound. So now that is external. But if you take the internal, there again, what I feel is the commentarial explanation is much more reasonable when you compare with that, what is happening outside. Because commentarial explanations really tries to say the Vachi Viññatti itself modifies the whatever the objects within the body which strikes and produce the sound. So, so that's an ability which living beings are capable of doing it. And of course, the coding comes externally. The coding of, because the same person can speak English or Sinhalese or maybe any other language. That learning the language is the coding process. That coding process is a learned process. So it must be in the sanya and perception and feelings. Vedana sanya, it must be a collection of that. With that, the coding process is pre-programmed into the human being. So he uses that and does the necessary programming of the parts which strike in a certain manner. That's the ability, the speaking ability of a person, and produces a sound. After the sound is produced, my argument is, actually it becomes a Rūpa Yatana. It's actually a Bahira Rūpa. So an external material form, is the human being capable of modifying? Is the question. Even with consciousness or whatever, unless you have super human powers, some kind of abhina, you may not be able to modify the sound which is external to the physical body. Because moment when you say that the vocal cords or whatever inside your throat or in your mouth, once it strikes and produces sound, it becomes an external packet of energy. So that external packet of energy is the mind or the consciousness or the body is capable of modifying is really the question. Unless there is another strike coming in the form of just like playing musical instruments. This is why I say the commentarial explanation seems to be much more reasonable when you argue in that manner. And one more question I have to add to this is, Kaya Viññāti and Vaci Viññāti, both those can occur simultaneously, or is it mutually exclusive?
Thank you for the question. Yes.
I will leave it to you to give your comments and possible explanations.
Kaya Viññāti, according to Theravada tradition, are not mutually associating. They never occur at the same kalapa. They are two different kalapas. That's been clearly mentioned. So the problem is now the arguments. I have discussed few arguments in this regard. One is we are capable of modifying the striking and producing the intended strike. But according to the commentarial explanation, what happens is the striking and the sound both happens together, which is a bit counterintuitive to our understanding. If the striking and the sound happens together, normally our normal understanding is the sound has to arise after the striking. So what is according to this explanation, the chitta is producing a sound in a kalapa which is striking. So according to this, what the commentarial explanation says, there are two issues about the commentarial explanation to discuss. The striking and the sound happens at the same time. It means they are arising together. Normal understanding is striking sound happens due to the striking. So they are talking about a sahajata combination, but it seems like how could a sound be produced if there was no striking? So according to the commentary explanation, striking and sound happens to this at the same time, which seems very strange. That's why Rerukane Chandavimala Mahathera in his Abhidhamma Mulika Karunu says the commentary is little bit strange in this point, because it says saha, because of the striking sound arises, so he has taken it as sound arises separately, because that is the normal intuition that we have. So if you read the Rerukane Mahathera's Abhidharma Mulika Karunu, he doesn't prefer the commentarial explanation, because he says, according to what the commentary says, the word is Tena dhatu sangattane kanena saheva saddha upajjati. Due to this striking, sound arises. So what he has taken, that's the normal explanation. Normally, that's how we would understand. Due to the striking, the sound arises. But what the sub-commentators have said is, the striking and the sound arises at the same time, and this striking is modified by Vaci Viññāti. Then the question comes, it's a physical modification. Modifying the striking is not modifying the sound. Modifying the striking is a modification of the physical activity. So then the question comes, even he says in Mulika Karunu book, the modification of a striking has to be Kaya Viññāti. Should not be Vaci Viññāti. So that is the two things. The next point is what you are bringing. Due to the striking, a sound arises. Isn't this external? So according to the definition of internal and external, For example, if you think the air that is coming out while we are breathing is still considered internal. Internal is something which is in the mind. Now, for instance, if you take the kalapas that are moving as air within our bowels, within our body things, we don't have much control over them. But still they are considered internal. Internal means something which is in the range of this body, which as soon as it goes out, it becomes external, except in few occasions. When the sperm comes into the penis, from that moment it becomes no chitta rupa starts to arise in it. And should be the mucus when it comes to the nostril, should be something external, but I'm not sure about that. But the sperm thing is very clearly mentioned. Even during it has come to the pipe of the penis, from that moment, it's not external, but it's chitta rupas stop arising from there. So internal things are not the things that are connected to our body, which is within the space of our body. Inside this space, anything can be internal. Then the question, I understand what your question is. Now, if the striking happens, when a sound arises, so we are in control of this striking because it is the body parts that can be moved according to our intention. But when the sound arises, it seems like it is out of our control. So the argument would be the consciousness have a control, a somewhat control over the entire space of this body. Entire space of this body. That doesn't mean that it can move the air as it wants. No, it will not be able to move the airs within the bowels and all as we wish. We may have certain efforts to do that, but it's 100% not in the control of the mind. But the effects of the mind are there. So what is happening, according to what the Paramahansa Dipani is suggesting, when the striking happens, the Rūpa arises, and this Rūpa is not fully under the control. It cannot be moved like a body part because it is a certain kind of a sound that is happening. But with the mind, influence of the mind can be seen in the entire body parts. Influence is seen because we say the air that comes up also has chitta rupa. Air that goes down has chitta rupas. So they happens most of the times it happens without our intentions. So chitta rupas do contain, and they have a huge chitta has a huge influence on them. So therefore, even though the sound is happening due to the striking, that sound, the chitta still can influence it because it is within the range of the body. That's how the internal organs are being defined. So according to that, still there is a slight possibility that I'm not saying that both the explanations are accurate. I can still argue against both the explanations, but still when the Rūpa sound arises, it is capable of influencing the consciousness because still it's not external. As long as it remains in our body, internal nature is there and the influence can be seen.
Your explanation gives me two other thoughts. I will quickly mention that and give the chance to other people to ask questions. One is actually the kaya viññāti, that's the modification of the physical body is clearly established. There's no question about it. Vaci viññāti doesn't modify the body parts, but it can only modify sound. Is it the right way if I understand?
According to Paramahansa Dipani and Reruka and Chandavela Mahathera, that is their opinion. But according to the commentary, Vaci viññāti modifies the striking, the manner of striking which produces the sound. So that's why Thera is suggesting that this seems to be a little bit strange. So if you read the
manner of striking, obviously it's part of the work of kaya viññāti. That's why I first asked whether these two are mutually exclusive or whether it can happen at the same time.
They are mutually exclusive, not in the same kalapa.
Yeah, it's not in the same kalapa, all right, but timing wise, can it happen at the same time?
Then what happens is, so then the question comes, in which kalapa the sound is in. So if you take that they are happening in two different,
same moment.
If you take they are happening at the same moment, but if it is still a different kalapa, then what happened? The striking was done by kaya viññāti, and the sound is produced, modified by Vachi Vinyati, and then we fall back into the Paramattha Dipani's explanation.
Yes.
Because
that is a possibility.
So because according to commentarial explanation, the striking is modified by Vachi Vinyati and the sound arises within that Kalapa. So there is no Kaya Vinyati involved.
Other is actually, if you have to accept Paramattha Dipani explanation, there has to be an intermediate pace. Why I say intermediate is, the Vachi Vinyati produces striking and produces the sound.
Kaya Vinyati, no. Kaya Vinyati produces the striking, and sound arises by the consciousness with the help of the striking, and the Vachi Vinyati in it modifies the sound.
This is exactly the slip of the tongue or lack of mindfulness in that. Maybe I made the mistake of using the Vachi Vinyati word. What I meant was the Kaya Vinyati. So using Kaya Vinyati, because of Kaya Vinyati, the striking happens and the sound is produced. After that, immediately after that, there is a possibility for the Vachi Vinyati to modify that sound. That's what Paramattha Dipani explanation, if I understand it right.
Yes.
So that means that's an intermediate phase, because the moment the sound becomes external,
that's why it says it's not external, it's in the body yet still.
Yeah, so it's an intermediate phase.
Not intermediate.
Before, why I say intermediate is, so the body, the striking produces the sound, and before it is heard by another party and understood, in between, that is why intermediate. There's an in-between phase where the human mind can produce the Vachi Vinyati and modify. I mean, these are all happening in mind moments, but still it's a mind moment which has an intermediate control over the sound that is just released.
No, we cannot bring the other person's hearing here, because what matters is how the sound is being modified. So what other person, whether hears it or not, doesn't matter in the end. And there is an argument whether the sound rupas go out or stays inside. According to the standard explanation, the sound remains inside while it's being heard by others. It's not that the sound is moving. Its sound remains inside. So when the sound arises, it is modified by Vachi Vinyati, and together with it, so that modified sound will be heard directly.
Yes, anyway, it's a very complicated subject. Thank you very much, and much merits to you, and let's hope that you will not fall sick again.
Sorry. Thank you.
May I ask my question? My question is, I have heard that the sound is not of kamma, born of kamma, and I have read in a fable that a dog was paying the way for a Pachika Buddha by barking, and after that it was born in one of the heavens, and he had a very loud voice and known as a Posaka Buddha. Then I have heard that sound is not common. Is it correct? That's what I have asked.
Sound can never be produced by kamma according to Theravada fundamentals. So what happens is, in Gosaka's story, because of barking means not with anger, but as a help to the Svatyeka Buddha out of love, he got a very loud sound as a divine being. He could, his sound could be heard for many miles. Then in the Nidhikanda Sutta we find, by doing good merits, people get sweet voice. Suannata Sussarata, Susantana Sarva, Sussarata, very sweet voice. The Buddha had a voice of 8 characteristics. So what are these? Are these sounds produced by the karma? No. So what happens is, the karma, the involvement of karma here is, it affects the utuja body of the living being. It affects the utuja body of the living beings, which we discussed in the rupas related to karma. I have talked about this. So what happens, that due to the influence of karma, the body, when it is made, arises in a way that would facilitate sweet voice, that would facilitate a louder voice. So what the karma is doing, it's affecting the body to construct in a certain manner, so the sound which is produced due to these strikings would be sweet or would be louder or whatever, based, or maybe very harsh if it is an akusala karma. Depends on the things would happen depending on the karma. So that's what is the process involvement of karma regarding sound. But otherwise, according to the tradition, no sound can be produced directly by karma.
Thank you, understood. Thank you.
Okay, I think the questions are over. So we have discussed about Vati Vinyati. The next day, I'll be starting a new lesson related to Chittaja Rūpa. So hope that was useful to you. May with this merit of discussing Dhamma, may all of us be able to understand the Dhamma deeply and attain the full liberation. And may this merit help for the sustaining of Buddha Sasana. Buddha Sasanang Chirantittatu, Buddha Sasanang Chirantittatu, Buddha Sasanang Chirantittatu, Sadhu, Sadhu, Sadhu.